The Carly Gregg story has taken the world by storm. This 15-year-old girl from Mississippi made headlines after she was slapped with a life sentence, a punishment that's unheard of for minors. However, Carly's crime isn't ordinary in the least. According to the prosecution, not only did she kill her 40-year-old mother in cold blood, but she also attempted to take her stepfather's life. After previously rejecting the 40-year plea deal, the jury announced that Gregg would be going to prison for the rest of her life, after which she broke down into tears in court.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment.
Considering minors don't easily get life sentences, it makes sense that Carly Gregg's horrendous crime is shaping up to be an example. But what exactly happened before Gregg pulled the trigger on her mother? The insane Carly Gregg story. Carly Gregg, a 15-year-old girl from Rankin County, Mississippi, has been at the center of a tragic story. Before the horrendous incident, Gregg lived with her mother, 47-year-old Ashley Smiley, and her stepfather, 38-year-old Heath Smiley. She attended Northwest Rankin High School, where she was a sophomore, and her mother, Ashley, was a math teacher at the same school. In 2022, Ashley was named the school's new Teacher of the Year. By all accounts, Ashley was described as a kind and wonderful teacher, someone students and colleagues adored. Carly herself was seen as an exceptional student. She was well-behaved, with no criminal record until recently. In fact, most teachers remembered her as a gifted student who had skipped a grade and been named both Student of the Month and Student of the Year, so it makes it all the more shocking to find out the unspeakable crime she committed. Growing up, Carly went through her fair share of troubles, losing her sister at a young age, and then witnessing her parents' divorce. At some point, Carly started to isolate herself from her reality and grew lonely. Things had reached a point where she couldn't control her symptoms organically and was put on prescription medications, including the antidepressant Lexapro, by a professional. In March 2024, she was suddenly switched to a different medication, and just a week later, on March 19th, something tragic unfolded. That day, her stepfather, Heath, called 911 to report a shooting at their home. When police arrived, they found the mom, Ashley, dead, and Heath injured from a gunshot wound to his shoulder. According to Heath's account, when Heath got home, he found Ashley lying on the floor in Carly's room, already deceased. He turned around and saw Carly standing in the kitchen holding a gun. Heath described Carly's eyes as wide, like she had just seen a demon. He was terrified coming home to see his wife dead and his stepdaughter standing there with a gun. Carly then fired 3 shots at Heath. 2 missed, but 1 hit him in the shoulder. Ashley, however, had already been shot twice in the head. Heath managed to wrestle the gun away from Carly, after which she ran out of the house, jumped the backyard fence, and disappeared. Police quickly began searching for her, circling the neighborhood and warning residents to stay inside as they searched for Carly. Within half an hour, they tracked her down using a helicopter. She was found about half a mile from her home and taken into custody. At first, Carly, who was 14 at the time, was held in juvenile detention, but authorities later decided to charge her as an adult. She was charged with the murder of her mother and the attempted murder of her stepfather, pleading not guilty and given a $1 million bond. There were rumors circulating online that when Carly saw the bond amount, she allegedly remarked, "Oh, so you can kill a person, pay a lot of money, and still get out." While it's unclear if this is true, the story spread on the internet. At Carly's preliminary hearing, which took place shortly after she turned 15, an investigator testified that there was video footage from security cameras inside the home. The footage showed Carly walking around the house after the shooting, playing with her dogs as if nothing had happened. In one part of the video, Carly is seen hiding something behind her back, which investigators believe was the gun. The footage also revealed that Carly used her mother's phone to text a friend, asking her to come over because of an emergency. In fact, while she was texting, she heard her mother scream and went back to possibly shoot her again just to silence her. Many people online claim this is premeditated murder, and no amount of insanity would lead a person to consciously shoot someone like that and appear as calm as Carly in the footage. When the friend arrived, Carly asked, "Have you ever seen a body before?" After the friend said no, Carly showed her mother's dead body. Carly then told her friend that she had shot her mother 3 times and planned to shoot her stepfather next, saying she had 2 to the head, 1 to the chest, for both of them. The investigator said Carly's friend went outside while Carly waited inside for her stepfather, Heath, to come home. At the hearing, the judge found enough evidence to support the charges against Carly and ordered a psychological evaluation to assess her mental state. Carly's lawyer had requested that her bond be reduced, but the judge denied it, saying it was safer for the community to keep her in custody until more was known about the case. The judge also stressed the importance of understanding what might have led to the incident, whether it was mental health related, medication related, or something else entirely. Carly's lawyer then petitioned the court to ban cameras from the courtroom, arguing that media coverage could prevent her from receiving a fair trial. However, the judge didn't rule on the request, as the lawyer had not filed the necessary documents correctly. The judge was also frustrated that the attorney had not yet arranged Carly's court-ordered psychological evaluation. Sometime after that, during a recent court hearing for Carly Gregg, her defense team claimed that their medical experts were unable to complete her mental evaluations while she remained in jail. However, the judge clarified that Carly's incarceration would not prevent her from being evaluated. He explained that she could be assessed either at the jail or be transported by court staff to the medical expert's office if necessary. The judge emphasized that it was the responsibility of Carly's defense to ensure these evaluations were completed, stating that the court would accommodate her being evaluated by her chosen expert. The judge also reminded the defense that the state of Mississippi had already complied with its obligations by submitting its own materials for Carly's evaluation and filing the necessary certificates of compliance. He noted that while the defense has the right to conduct their own mental evaluation, the state also has the right to have one performed by the Mississippi State Hospital. The judge warned that any delays in fulfilling these legal requirements would not be tolerated. In the weeks before the incident, Carly had posted pictures of her pets, expressing her love for them. No official motive for the shooting has been released, but rumors have surfaced online suggesting tension in the household, including speculation that Carly's mother had taken away her phone, forcing her to use her mother's phone to text a friend after the shooting. There is speculation about whether her recent medication change, including the abrupt switch from Lexapro, could have played a role in her behavior. It's unclear if Carly was weaned off the medication or if it was related to any troubling thoughts she may have had. These are questions that may be explored in future proceedings. Another point of interest is Carly's friend, who came over after receiving a text from Carly and was shown her mother's body. After that, the friend reportedly sat outside the house. There are many questions about what happened next and what the friend did after witnessing such a shocking scene. But one thing's for sure, seeing Carly's demeanor after the incident, there are many reasons why an insanity plea is out of the question. So, why could mental illness not be used as a defense? A psychiatrist testified that 15-year-old Carly Gregg does not meet the legal standard for an insanity defense. Dr. Jason Pickett, who reviewed evidence and submitted an 85-page report, stated that Carly knew the nature of her actions on the day of the shooting, describing them as diabolical. Pickett also mentioned Carly's concerns about potentially inheriting bipolar disorder, as her father was diagnosed with the condition. However, Pickett doubted Carly has bipolar disorder based on his evaluation. Nurse practitioner Olivia Lieber, who treated Carly starting in January 2024, testified that Carly was diagnosed with major depressive disorder and adjustment disorder. Carly had expressed feeling depressed, but never reported hearing voices or experiencing hallucinations during her visits. In March, Carly mentioned feeling like a zombie on Zoloft, leading Lieber to switch her to Lexapro. Licensed counselor Rebecca Kirk also met with Carly several times in early 2024. Carly reported disruptive thoughts, trouble sleeping, and anger issues, but denied hearing voices. Despite this, she engaged with Kirk in intellectual discussions and did not show any signs of suicidal or homicidal tendencies. After Carly's arrest, Dr. Amanda Gugliano from the Mississippi State Hospital evaluated her. Carly admitted to hearing a male voice since childhood, which she described as background noise that she could ignore. However, the voice never instructed her to harm anyone, contrary to earlier claims by psychiatrist Dr. Andrew Clark. Clark testified that Carly was in a mental health crisis during the shooting and might not remember the incident. He believes a new medication for depression may have worsened her condition in the days leading up to the event. So what happened at the trial? Carly Madison Gregg was sentenced to life in prison after being found guilty of murdering her mother, attempting to murder her stepfather, and tampering with evidence. The jury deliberated for 2 hours before delivering the guilty verdict and took an additional hour to decide her sentence. Prosecutors pushed for a life sentence without parole, arguing that Gregg showed zero remorse. In contrast, her defense team asked the jury to let the judge decide the sentence, hoping to ease the burden on the family. Before the jury's deliberation, Judge Dewey Arthur provided instructions on the law, and both the prosecution and defense made their final arguments. The jury, consisting of 1 black woman, 1 black man, 7 white women, and 3 white men, found Gregg guilty on all charges. She had previously rejected a plea deal that would have resulted in a 40-year prison sentence. During the reading of the verdict and sentence, Gregg broke down in tears, while her family in the courtroom, including her stepfather and her mother's parents, appeared to offer words of encouragement. The prosecution argued that Gregg's actions were deliberate and calculated, citing security footage from the family's kitchen that showed her retrieving a gun and firing 3 shots that killed her mother. Prosecutors insisted that Gregg knew what she was doing and understood the difference between right and wrong. The defense, however, portrayed Gregg as a teenager in a mental health crisis. They emphasized that Gregg had no history of violence and had loved her mother and stepfather. They urged the jury to consider these factors while weighing the evidence. Despite this, the jury found Gregg guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. A defense expert testified that Carly Gregg's journal entries reveal her ongoing struggle with mental health, casting doubt on the state's narrative about the murder of her mother. Attorney Bridget Todd questioned the prosecution's explanation, asking, if Carly killed her mom because she found out about her smoking pot, why didn't she run? Why did she call her friends, terrified and crying, asking for help? Why text her stepdad? None of this makes sense, and the state can't explain it, but they need to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Psychiatrist Dr. Andrew Clark read a journal entry from March 12th, a week before the shootings, in which Gregg wrote, I think I had a psychotic break earlier. The whole ordeal is quite silly. I actually spoke with one of the voices in my head. We were practically screaming bloodthirsty and ravenously. Thank God, physical confrontation was not possible. I sound crazy. Clark believes the combination of Lexapro, Gregg's mental health history, and her difficult upbringing contributed to the violent outburst. He stated that Gregg does not remember the shootings, with her memory going blank during the incident. According to Clark, her memory returned when she was found by police near a drainage pipe. Gregg's stepfather, Heath, who was shot by Carly, also testified. He recalled arriving home when a gun fired near his face, describing the experience as a blur. Heath said he struggled with Carly to take away the .357 Magnum revolver, during which he was shot in the shoulder. He testified that Carly was out of her mind scared, as though she had seen a demon. Initially, he thought there was an intruder, but after searching the house, he found his wife, Ashley, dead in Carly's room, with a bloody towel over her face. There was no intruder. Heath testified that the gun Carly used was kept under Ashley's side of the bed because she was afraid her ex-husband, Kevin Gregg, might show up at their home. Heath explained that Carly was also fearful of her biological father. Despite the shooting, Heath said he was never afraid of Carly, calling her a sweet little girl. The trial's first day included the playing of the 911 call Heath made on the day of the shootings. In the call, Heath can be heard in a frantic and emotional state saying, "She killed her mother." As the call played in the courtroom, Carly sat with her head down, occasionally whimpering. Body cam footage from the first deputy on the scene showed the discovery of Ashley's body with a bullet wound to her head. During the state's opening statement, prosecutor Catherine White Newman told the jury that Carly killed her mother after Ashley learned about Carly's secrets. That morning, Carly had an argument with a friend who later became worried about her behavior. Concerned about Carly's marijuana use and hidden burner phones, this friend decided to tell Ashley about it. After school, Ashley confronted Carly at home, and prosecutors believe Ashley found vape pens in Carly's room. Prosecutors say Carly then retrieved a .357 Magnum from her parents' bedroom, concealed it behind her back, and walked into her own room, where she shot her mother 3 times, killing her. Carly then allegedly tried to contact multiple friends for help, asking them to come over, but refusing to explain what happened. During the defense's opening statement, Carly's lawyer acknowledged that Carly killed her mother, but argued that she was suffering from an undiagnosed mental illness at the time. The defense claimed that neither Carly nor her parents knew she was mentally ill, and her friends didn't recognize her symptoms. They described Carly as a bright, exceptional student who had a close, loving relationship with her mother, making the crime even more tragic. The defense argued that Carly was a victim herself, along with her mother and stepfather. The first witness, 911 operator Kevin Collins, testified that Carly's stepfather, Heath, called in the shooting. Heath said he had been grazed by a bullet and that his wife was dead on the floor. As the 911 call played in court, Carly wept at the defense table. Heath told the operator that Carly had shot him, ran outside, and jumped over a fence. He described Carly as wearing a gray shirt and jeans with short, dark brown hair. When police arrived, body cam footage showed Heath falling to the ground as he opened the door, and officers discovered Ashley's body inside the house. On the day of the incident, Carly Gregg ran into the backyard with her stepfather, Heath Smiley, trying to follow her. She jumped over stairs, ran, and shot him in the neck. Though injured, Heath managed to observe that Carly had left the gun on the kitchen counter, with one light brown bullet still inside. Emergency crews arrived minutes later, and Heath informed them it was Carly who had shot him and killed her mother. During the trial, a key witness, a 16-year-old classmate of Carly, testified that Carly was highly intelligent but had a history of self-harm. This was the same classmate who had seen Carly's mom's lifeless body. Carly was reportedly carrying a gun that day and admitted to shooting her mother 3 times, later asking if the friend wanted to stay while Carly took care of her stepdad. Carly's stepfather, Heath Smiley, testified during the trial, describing his wife, Ashley, as a loving teacher and mother who adored Carly. He also shared how Carly and Ashley had a close relationship, and that Carly had always been at the center of Ashley's thoughts and plans. Before the incident, Heath and Carly had a good relationship, enjoying time together playing video games and attending her activities like karate and guitar lessons. However, Ashley kept a close eye on Carly, always wanting to know where she was and who she was with. Sometimes Ashley had to tell Carly she couldn't go certain places because it was too late, but overall, Carly didn't get into much trouble. On one occasion, a boy named Thad came to their house. Carly had talked about him, but her parents hadn't met him before. When Thad knocked on the door, Carly didn't want to see him, so Heath answered the door, told Thad he had the wrong house, and closed the door. Carly didn't seem upset about it, and Heath didn't feel she would be angry enough to harm them because of it. Heath went on to testify about Carly's issues at school, including one incident where she brought a knife, leading her to be sent to an alternative school. Carly's parents were aware she was self-harming, and they took her to a therapist. Heath didn't know much about her medication, but he said Ashley made sure Carly took it regularly. However, on March 19, 2024, the day of the murder, Heath didn't see Carly take her medication. Heath described the morning of March 19th as a typical day. Ashley and Carly left for school a few minutes before him, as usual. Later that afternoon, he received a message from Ashley's phone that read, "You almost told them, honey," which seemed odd to him. He suspected it might have been Carly who sent it instead of Ashley, based on the phrasing. But little did he know what he'd run into when he would return home that day. Not only was he traumatized by the look of his wife's body lying in a pool of her blood, but unfortunately, he had to witness his stepdaughter pull the trigger on him too. Seeing the sweet girl he once knew stare at him with no remorse and shoot him was perhaps the most terrifying moment of his life. Even though he managed to grab the gun after the first shot, Carly had already hurt him. One bullet grazed Heath's shoulder. Carly was screaming, terrified, and seemed to be in a state of panic. as if she had seen something terrifying. Heath initially thought there might be an intruder, but he saw no one else in the house. Carly dropped the gun and ran. When Heath checked on Ashley, he found her lying on the floor with a towel over her face. There was blood, and Heath realized she had been shot. He checked her pulse, removed the towel, and called 911. Ashley had been shot in the right side of her face. During cross-examination, the defense played surveillance footage from the day of the murder. Screams could be heard from inside the house before Carly and her friend ran away. The footage also showed Carly and her mother arriving home, letting the dogs in, and moments later, Carly walking calmly to where the guns were kept. On day 3 of the trial, body cam footage was shown to the jury, capturing Carly's arrest. Officers swabbed her hands for gunshot residue, confirming she had fired a pistol. The case left many shocked, and the jury now faces the difficult task of deciding whether Carly's actions were premeditated or if she was in the midst of a mental health crisis. But after multiple witness accounts, the fact that her trial was treated differently states otherwise. The conviction. Now that her trial has wrapped her, Carly is being sentenced to life in prison. While the verdict was being announced, Carly was just nodding along with the judge, making it seem like she had either not processed her situation or had surrendered to her crime. However, after a few minutes, she started crying. She can be seen with a tissue in her hand, sobbing uncontrollably. Her stepfather can also be seen disappointed and hurt over the sentencing. He shows a display of mixed emotions, sad at the death of Ashley, but also sad and disappointed at the sentencing of Carly. Well, that's it for today. Do you think the life sentence was fair? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section, and before you leave, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Criminal Corner so you don't miss the next ones.